Hey, friends! In this one, I thought we'd check out a story that's all about what happens after you croak. So this time, we're talking about Steambath, a dark comedy from 1973, based on a play by Bruce Jay Friedman. Our story goes like this. A man named Tandy arrives in a steam room. He's not sure why he's there, but there are other patrons already on hand, including a New Yorker, a flamboyant lavender duo who sing and dance and give the impression they were in a stage act. There's also a cute, free-spirited young woman. When he asks who's in charge, he's told it's the attendant, a Puerto Rican man who, as it turns out, is actually God. He uses this odd computer interface to give crazy orders that will become reality on Earth. When he tires of them, this attendant, Morty or Morte, sends people out through a door which leads to a black void, the Afterlife. Nobody knows what's beyond. He also has an assistant named Gottlieb. Tandy is not convinced the attendant is God, but eventually he has to face the facts. Over the course of the play, Tandy tries to get back to his life, if only he can talk his way out. But God has heard it all. There is a spot of naked nudity in this production, some of the first nudity ever broadcast on American TV. Only some 24 stations aired the play, but nevertheless. In our cast, we have Bill Bixby as Tandy, a fast talker, a divorced father, an art instructor, and a wannabe author. He claims he just got his life back on track when he was struck down, and he wants to go back. Bixby is amazing here, especially in the last 10 or 12 minutes or so, where he delivers a long monologue giving all the reasons he should be allowed to return, and then demolishing every one of them himself as he ultimately faces the truth about his life. He was always avoiding unpleasantries, always running away from responsibilities, always thinking about himself. It really is something, and that monologue alone is worth the price of admission. If you only thought of Bixby as David Banner, this is a real eye-opener. Like many actors of his time, there was way more to Bixby than most people realize. The late Valerie Perrine, Miss Tessmacher herself, plays the free-spirited Meredith, and yes, she sports some naked nudity here. From behind, from the side, you get to see a bit of a view, but if you were hoping to see her flash the goods more overtly, you'd be disappointed. I know I was! There's a Bronx longshoreman played by familiar character actor Art Matrano. Kenneth Mars plays a stockbroker. He was in tons of things, including What's Up Doc and Young Frankenstein. He voiced Grandpa Longneck in the Land Before Time movies, and Triton in The Little Mermaid. Morty, God, was played by Jose Perez. He was in DC Cab, The Sting 2, The Young Savages, and The Mask of Zorro. He's pretty good here. Well, it's never specifically stated, God does all this because he's bored. He's done all the work creating the universe, and now he basically has nothing to do. So while most people go directly on to the afterlife, some people he places here in this steam bath so he can interact with them. Why a steam bath of all places? Well, God only knows. This is not exactly a new story. It has its origins in a much older work. In 1923, author Sutton Vane wrote a book called Outward Bound. In the story, a group of people find themselves on board an ocean liner. There's no crew and only one steward to look after them. Well, they don't know why they're there, why they're aboard, or where they're going. They all seem cool with it. But eventually, they discover the truth. They're all dead, and they're on their way to the afterlife. When they arrive, an examiner will interview them and tell them their fate. Those who were good people in life have nice things in store for them. Those who were bad will suffer some unhappy things. Heaven and hell, it turns out, are the same place, the same destination. What you get depends on how you led your life on Earth. This book, Sutton turned into a play, which he had to bankroll himself because it was a touchy subject. But the play did well, and in 1930, the play was made into a movie. In the cast, we have Leslie Howard as a self-described failure, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Helen Chandler, Mina from Dracula, played a young couple who have committed some kind of sin elaborated on later. Other character actors included Beryl Mercer and Allison Skipworth, as well as this lady, Bunny Beatty. She went on to play Martha Cratchit in the 1938 version of A Christmas Carol. Later, this story was remade in 1944 as Beyond Two Worlds, which incorporated the realities of wartime conditions. This has a great cast too. John Garfield, Paul Henry, Sidney Greenstreet, he plays the examiner, Eleanor Parker, Sarah Allgood, very familiar face, and George Coulouris are all here. Edmund Gwenn, Kris Kringle from Miracle on 34th Street, plays the steward. One addition was George Tobias as a merchant sailor, another very familiar face. There's some great acting in this. Garfield is really good, as is Henry. Over the years, there have been several versions of Outward Bound on radio and television, and revivals of the play. Why an ocean liner? Well, God only knows. Seems like the volume of people going to the afterlife would necessitate taking more than 10 passengers at a time, but there you go. And speaking of the journey to the afterlife, I may as well mention this one too. Here Comes Mr. Jordan from 1941. This was a spin on the play All That Heaven Allows. Here, Claude Rains plays Mr. Jordan, who facilitates transport to the afterlife. He's assisted by our old friend Edward Everett Horton. Man, as you know, I love that guy. Anyway, in that movie, transport to the afterlife is accomplished via a passenger plane. People board the plane and off they go into the great beyond. Literally. Pretty unusual, but I suppose that kind of fits the time this movie was made. I wonder what the in-flight movie was like. As for Steambath, this led to a TV series. That's right. This producer was so taken with the concept of Steambath, he tried for years to turn it into a half-hour sitcom. Eventually, he got a distribution deal from Warner's, but no network would touch it, considering the subject matter too racy for them. So the series landed at Showtime, and Steambath became one of the first so-called Showtime originals. It only ran for 6 episodes. The show had no nudity except for 1 or 2 quick shots of a girl we see from behind as she takes a shower. She looks good, though. Jose Perez and the Lavender Duo reprised their roles, and the original director of Steambath, Bert Brinkerhoff, directed 3 episodes of the show. Al Russico plays the New York cabbie Da Vinci. He was in lots of stuff, a very familiar face. Blanche, a washed-up waitress, one of the only new additions to the cast of characters, was played by Rita Taggart. She was in The China Syndrome and Mulholland Drive. But the star of the thing was, ostensibly, the actor who played Bill Bixby's role of Rod Tandy. None other than the EMH. That's right, Robert Picardo, with hair. We last talked about him in my review of Legend. Here, he's a high-flying advertising man, but more or less the same character other than that. And in the role originated by Valerie Perrine was this girl, Janice Ward, who sadly didn't do too much outside of this, a few TV appearances, and The House on Sorority Row. Here she plays Meredith, and she's rockin' hot. And she wears this conveniently draped towel that you really wish would slip. And never does. Damn it! For the most part, the show sticks with the formula of the play. People enter in one door of the steam room and exit the other into a mysterious black void, never to return. The place itself has been expanded with more spaces and a locker room. Morty uses the same goofy interface to give goofy orders, and he has the same assistant guy. The main difference here is that guest stars come along in each episode, departing by the end. Among the guest stars, we have Dick Shawn, the voice of Snow Miser, among many other things. He plays a Jerry Lewis-type comedian. His ex-partner he hasn't spoken to in 9 years is also on hand, a Dean Martin-like character played by the very familiar actor Alex Rocco. Peter Scolari from Newhart is in another episode, as is this guy, who plays a washed-up baseball player. That's Stephen Williams, who you may best remember as Mr. X, Mulder's informant in the first season or so of The X-Files. And Barbara Babcock also shows up in an episode. She was in Far and Away, Space Cowboys, Hill Street Blues, The Law and Harry McGraw, and Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. She also has the distinction of appearing in no less than 6 episodes of the original Star Trek. She voiced Loskeen, the Tholian captain, in The Tholian Web. She voiced Trelane's mom in The Squire of Gothos. She also voiced the lights of Zatar and the Beta 5 computer in Assignment Earth, and she appeared in front of the camera in A Taste for Armageddon and Plato's Stepchildren. Sadly, this series never caught on, but you can kinda see why. Sooner or later, the main cast has to go through that door, right? But that makes it hard to have a long-running series with familiar, regular characters. Still, it was an interesting experiment. Some of the concepts from Outward Bound are still being revived from time to time. In fact, I recently saw a film from India where this was the big twist. A group of friends are on a road trip when they wind up having to stay at this creepy, run-down old house with all kinds of this weird, spooky stuff going on. And, you guessed it, they're all dead. Once they figure it out, they have to stay there until they accept their fate. So, as you can see, iterations of this story by Sutton Vane keep popping up even today. If you want to know what the stage play would have been like, I'd recommend the 1930 version of Outward Bound. It has some of the play's cast reprising their roles, and being from 1930, it has a sort of stage-bound quality that movies of that time period had. Between Two Worlds is far more interesting, better photographed, and has a more familiar cast. The studio obviously spent some money on this one, and there's not a sour note in the whole thing. Steambath, the TV series, is an interesting artifact from 1984 and the early days of premium cable channels. All 6 episodes are available on YouTube and worth checking out. As for Steambath itself, this was also a product of its time, a time when public television, and television in general, was far more daring, more interesting, far more literate, and more creative. Public television brought the arts into our homes, programs that were a veritable kaleidoscope of creativity. Theater, ballet, symphonies, just all kinds of stuff. A public television that was a public service, all but forgotten today. Steambath won't be for everyone, but I found it a very curious and very different project from the 1970s. And if you can track down a copy of the DVD, I think it's worth your time. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.